وَمَا مَنَعَ النَّاسَ أَنْ يُؤْمِنُوا إِذْ جَاءَهُمُ الْهُدَى وَيَسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَّا أَنْ تَأْتِيَهُمْ سُنَّةُ الْأَوَّلِينَ أَوْ يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ قُبُلًا. Surah-Al-Kahfi, Surah 8, Ayat 55. This verse is interesting for a number of reasons, two primary reasons, and we'll discuss both of them. The first is there are two possible ways to interpret. We'll look at that first. And the second is there are two different words in the Arabic, two different Arabic words which most of the translators or scholars have translated using the same English word. So I'll use that as an example in the first iteration of the translation that I'll present, and then I'll help you understand why there is more meaning to that than can be captured by that single English word, which is not entirely representative of what the connotation the Arabic words, the two different Arabic words capture. So, but before that, there are two different ways to interpret this. And interestingly, both the ways are sort of correct interpretations. And interestingly, again, more interestingly than the first reason is, it's a rarity to see that the word, a sentence in the affirmative and the negative can both be simultaneously true. How can a positive and a negative sentence simultaneously be true? So we'll see all of that in action. So wa is and, ma can have two meanings. So first we'll give one of the meanings, which is no, negation. Mana is, you can say, prevented, he prevented. So when you translate this, ma is negating a past tense verb, which is okay, which is sort of standard usage only, nothing strange about that as yet. And so how do you translate it? And he prevented, and no, he prevented. So and nothing prevented. Annasa, the humankind, and nothing prevented the humankind. An yu'minu, okay, nothing prevented the humankind from believing. So basically, that they believe, literal translation, but there is another construct. The other construct is to believe, or for believing, something like that, which is also a okay translation when an and the present tense verb, present future tense verb comes about in the Arabic construct. But instead of for believing, that sounds a bit strange. So the suitable word in the preposition, at least in the translated language, in the target language, in this case English, a better word is from, so from believing. And nothing prevented the humankind from believing is ja'ahumu. Humu is for connecting to the next word, that's tajweed rule. Otherwise it's is ja'ahum, when guidance, is ja'ahumul huda, is ja'ahum al-huda. Al-huda is in the rafa status, though you can't make that out. It's a non-flexible word. So that's the subject basically. When guidance has come to them, whom is them, ja, come. And why are we translating in English? Because is pushes the meaning of ja, which is in the past, to the present future tense, to the present tense basically. So far so good. And nothing prevented the humankind from believing when guidance has come to them. And it continues, wa is and, wa yastaghfiru, and from seeking forgiveness. Seen and ta is there, right? And it's the present tense as well. And it's from seeking forgiveness. Rabbahum, from their Lord or of their Lord. Seeking forgiveness, their Lord, we need a preposition. Seeking forgiveness of their Lord. So two things basically till now. And nothing prevented the humankind from believing when guidance has come to them and from seeking forgiveness of the Lord, except. So what has prevented them? So there are two things which are suggested, that guidance has come to them and that they should seek forgiveness of their Lord, from their Lord. And nothing is prevented except what prevents them from the humankind from doing these two acts? Except an ta'tiyahum sunnatu. Except, okay, sunnatu, you can see it's in the rocker state, so that's the subject, and sunnatu al-awwalina, that's idafa construct. So we'll have to use that as the subject. Sunnatul awwalin will be the subject. Except that the way of the earlier people. So the way of the earlier people, ta'tiyahum, comes to them. Ta'tiya comes to them. Whom is the them attached pronoun? Comes to them. In the sense, I mean, why is the feminine form used? Ta'tiya is present tense fine, but why is the feminine form used? Because the subject is feminine. Sunnatu, it has ta marbuta. Okay. So except that the way of the earlier people comes to them. Or ya'tiya humu al-azabu. Now, why is it ya'tiya now? Because al-azabu, which is the subject, because in the rocker status, is masculine. I mean, the gender is masculine. Azab, by the way, is neither masculine nor feminine. Similarly, in any other concepts. So in Arabic, we don't have it. So either he or she. So it has to be represented by either he or she. So in any case, azabu, the punishment, is the subject. Aw ya'tiyahumu, that the punishment comes kubulan, right before them. So this is a question basically. So two things, what is preventing the humankind from doing those two things, except that these two things are there. So these two things are basically preventing them from doing the good things. From believing and from seeking forgiveness from their Lord, of their Lord. So when we read this, and nothing prevented the humankind from believing when guidance has come to them and from seeking forgiveness of their Lord, except that the way of the earlier people comes to them and that the punishment comes right before them. What do we understand? It's simple. So the way of the earlier people comes to them means following the traditions, the rituals of the earlier people. So no, we would have done that, but our ancestors, our family has the practice of doing such and such a thing. How can we leave that? This is a common sort of rebuttal that people of all ages has come up with. It's an invalid rebuttal, but that's one of the things that people say, and that's what is highlighted. What else acts as a deterrent from them doing the good deeds? I mean, nothing prevented except this, the tradition of the ancestors, of the earlier people, or that the punishment comes right before them. So if the punishment comes right before them, then they immediately jump to doing the good deeds. But now it's too late. For example, Firaun, when the sea was coming over him, he says, I believe in the Lord of Musa al-Islam, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Firaun, too late. So the traditions of the earlier people and the punishment, when it reaches right before them, they've been given the time before that, but now the time is over, it's already too late. Then they want to go back to, mend their ways and go back to what is right. But that's too late. You would have probably noticed and thought that I have been reading the translation. I can't even read English. I have been translating again and again, nothing prevented. When what is mentioned in the translation that you can see in front of your screen is, and what prevented? So now, after having explained this, now we will come to this part. Ma, you know that it can also be translated as what? And now look, we will change the negative sentence into an affirmative sentence. And still, it would be a valid sentence. Amazing usage of the Arabic construct. And listen to me now, and what prevented the humankind from believing when guidance has come to them and from seeking forgiveness of their Lord, except that the way of the earlier people comes to them, or that punishment comes right before them? Isn't it still valid? In fact, according to me, the second is the primary meaning, because both the meanings are conveying the same thing. But the second sentence, the usage of what, it actually is a rhetorical device, and it poses a question, poses a rhetorical question, and the answer is obvious. So this acts as a rhetorical device so that it forces the reader, the hearer, to think about this verse, to ponder upon this verse. That's the intended meaning. The second point, so this I hope is clear. The second is, you can see I have translated ja'a as come. I have translated ya'tiya or ta'tiya as to come. But ja'a and ata are two different words, two different root words. How can they be the same? They are not the same. That is why, but when we read the running translation with ma as no or with ma as what, in both the cases, the word come used in all the three occurrences, one for ja'a and two for ata, one in the ta'tiya form and the other ya'tiya form, because of, as I said, the subject being feminine and masculine in the respective cases. It sounded natural. So the English word come is actually a good substitute for ja as well as ata. It is. But then it can be a good substitute word, or sort of ja independently can be translated as to come and ata independently can be translated as to come. But since two different Arabic words are there in the sentence, necessarily there is more meaning than just that, and that is where we now need to focus a little bit of our attention. Now ja'a is, I can say, or can suggest, how do I suggest, it's more sort of, what should I say, more serious. It's a more serious note, right? And ata is a more, what would be the opposite of serious? More easy, more common. Okay. So when is the first occurrence of come used in the sentence? When something more serious is being discussed. And what prevented the humankind from believing when guidance has come to them, when guidance has been bestowed upon them? Has been bestowed upon the same passive. So that's what there is inherent intrinsic difficulty in translating this. Come fits naturally over here as well as in the next place. So guidance has come to them. In the sense, guidance has been bestowed upon them. But it sort of seems passive, but it's not really passive if you carefully consider the usage. Guidance has occurred to them, appeared to them, that sort of connotation is implied, and that there is a seriousness involved, there is a purpose involved when we are using the word ja. And when the word ata is used, it is more of an easy, and so first part was the positive rhetorical device, and the second part was the what is actually causing them to do the wrong. So the reasons. So more common talk, except that the way of the early people. So it's not to be followed, but they're following that. Except that punishment now comes right before them. That's not the reason enough for them to follow. They should have followed earlier than that, before that. So again, the way of the earlier people reaches them, or that the punishment reaches right before them. Now, after it's reached you, no, it's too late. So now I'll read it once, not with come, but with the words that I've substituted it with. And you can see it's again sort of becoming more, it's still natural, but has been bestowed upon. You'd rather prefer has come, isn't it? Has reached them, you'd rather prefer has come to them, isn't it? But let's read without the come, because that's how we want to differentiate that behind these two words are two different Arabic words. And what prevented the humankind from believing when guidance has been bestowed upon them and from seeking forgiveness of their Lord, except the way of the early people reaches them, or that punishment reaches right before them? And the same still holds valid if we use ma in the sense of no and use has been bestowed upon or reaches, it's still valid. So I think I have explained whatever I wanted to. We'll read it once. Obviously, I cannot give you the 4 different translations. I can give you, but I've already explained the 4 different ways to translate. One is no with come and come. One is what with come and come. One is no with the substitute words, and one is what with the substitute words. So according to me, what with the substitute words is best. That helps us to appreciate, okay, behind these two phrases has been bestowed upon and reaches, there are two different words in the Arabic language. So we'll read it one more time. وَمَا مَنَعَ النَّاسَ أَن يُؤْمِنُوا إِذْ جَاءَهُمُ الْهُدَى وَيَسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَّا أَن تَأْتِيَهُمْ سُنَّةُ الْأَوَّلِينَ أَوْ يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ قُبُلًا. And what prevented the humankind from believing when guidance has been bestowed upon them, and from seeking forgiveness of the Lord, except that the way of the earlier people reaches them, or that the punishment reaches right before them?